Does he even think of me? Is he dating again? Did it even mean something to him? Has he moved on? What's going on there for him? Did he even love me in the first place? Hey, it's Jack and welcome to this video. This video is my ex over me? So we're gonna get right into this topic, but just before we do, I wanna offer you my free guide. It's the first link beneath this video. It's gonna put you on my mailing list. So not only is this guide gonna give you 9 steps you can run any guy through to get a sense of how interested is he really in a committed style of relationship with you. Let me do the lifting for you, but also put you on my mailing list. This is where you will exclusively hear of my new and upcoming program. So if you like my work, if you like this community, you're gonna wanna definitely be around to hear for that. All right, so let's get into it. Is my ex still thinking of me? Is my ex over me? So I think there's 3 principal reasons why you might be asking yourself this question. So I'm gonna break it down. What this is gonna do is it's gonna help you feel more peace of mind. It's gonna help you stay over here with yourself rather than over there with him. It's also gonna allow you more clarity and discernment and even objectivity about your own situation. So the first reason, are they okay? So this is probably the most altruistic reason of the 3 that I'm gonna go through, right? That you're worried whether your ex can be in the world without you, that perhaps you know some things about them and how they tend to behave. Maybe in its worst case, you know that they are prone to depression or something else that's serious, and you're generally concerned for them, right? Now, the challenge here is if you guys are really gonna separate, get psychological closure and move on with your lives, right, in the medium or long term, then there's a limit to how much you can be this sort of support person for him, right? So maybe you've already cut ties, but maybe you're still checking in, maybe you sometimes talk, maybe you reach out for texts, maybe you just send reassurance, and all of that can be coming from a really lovely place. And as soon as possible, we need to find someone else to play your role, right? So ideally, your ex finds that person off their own bat, right? They go find a therapist, a coach, they go enroll their sister, their mom, their friend to be their support system. If that's really not happening and you notice that this person's doing badly and you care, you could step in to try to find that person for them, right? You could make the call to their sister and say, hey, I'm really worried about Dave. We're no longer together. I can't be the support person for him, but I think someone needs to look out for him because I don't think he's doing great. That's sort of the last resort. Ideally, as I say, they do it on their behalf. If you're really struggling to think, hey, is this person literally gonna be okay? Then you can do your best to set up some kind of support for them. We ideally don't want you in a kind of codependence with them, that for them to be okay, you need to remain in their lives. And now this is some kind of pseudo relationship, or it doesn't allow you to actually close and start to heal and move on with your life. The second reason that you might be asking yourself, is your ex okay, is actually the one that I come across the most. Now, this is where there's a part of you that is prone to an experience that we might call I feel unloved or I feel unwanted. And you wanna know, is your ex over you or is your ex still thinking about you? Because that part of you wants reassurance that actually you are loved and you are wanted, that this relationship did mean something to them, that they're not able to just move on quickly and get into some other relationship or to have a happy, free, single life, that actually, yeah, they're kind of going through it a little bit because perhaps you are. There's nothing wrong with having that part of you because all of us at some level have a little or bigger part of us that wants to know that we're loved or wanted. It might just be that for you, this is a particular place where your wounding is constellated. And so you tend to look outside of yourself for validation and love from other people to know, hey, I'm okay, right? Hey, I'm good enough. The real work here is actually to go to work on including and loving that part of yourself from yourself to yourself, right? Because otherwise it always leaves you dependent on the other person in a way that probably is not the most healthy kind of dependence. Of course, all real relationships have a form of dependence in them, right? But we want to try and make it the most healthy form of dependence and not the less healthy version. The less healthy version is, unless you continue to validate me, unless you continue to give me an experience called I feel loved, I feel wanted, unless that's happening, this kind of wound or this part of me tends to run the show. And I get very anxious that I'm not worthy, I'm not loved, I'm not deserving. And at its worst, I might just think really bad things about myself. Now, if you're going through that experience, that's incredibly difficult, right? So I'm not sitting here whimsically saying, hey, you just got to work on that part of yourself. But ultimately, right, real talk, through time, your work is going to be to learn how to relax and love on that part of yourself. It can be helpful just to get clear that maybe you came in with a propensity, however you think about this metaphysically, you came into this life with a propensity that you were going to feel something in this territory called, it's easy for me to have the experience, I feel unloved. And actually, instead of us trying to put a salve on it, right, or some kind of topical cream, right, which in this instance would be knowing that your ex still loves you or thinks about you or wants you, that we're actually going to try to do something better than the salve, is we're actually trying to heal that wound. And that's probably going to involve you getting into some deeper work. It could be with a transformational coach. It could be in some kind of therapy. It could be whatever is part of your healing journey. We don't actually need to know the how. Often we just need to know the why and that we're committed and we're going to go for it. But if you're still looking at your ex for that kind of reassurance, I would invite you to see if you can downshift the connection, right? Perhaps in time or now, consider to go more fully no contact and start to work with that experience in yourself, right? As excruciating or as difficult or as uncomfortable or as fear-making as that may be, it's only when you fully face that part of yourself with intention and patience through time that you can actually solve for this experience, right? Does that mean you're never going to have an experience called I feel unloved? Probably not. Right? You're probably always going to have some kind of sensitivity in that area, but is it possible to reduce your sensitivity? And is it possible that when that wound gets activated, you can notice, oh, my wound's being activated. That doesn't mean I need to go over there to get this person to convince myself I'm okay. I can actually start to do more of that for myself. Now, we're human. We obviously love it when other people give us reassurance, love, and validation. So I'm not making that wrong. But do you get the difference? One is almost like you're such a thirsty person that you'll drink anything. Right? Versus, yeah, I have preferences. I prefer to drink, herbal tea or coconut water, beer, whatever your thing of choice is, but I don't actually need it in every moment, right? It's not like if I don't get the beer or I don't get the coconut water, I'm really struggling. It's I can also self-soothe and self-reassure that it's okay that there's a part of me that wants love and validation, and I can also to some extent start giving that to myself, because the moment I do that, the place that I enter into a relationship with someone else from is different. Right? It doesn't preclude, it doesn't stop them still giving you some validation. We all need that at times, but the place that you enter the contract with them looks different. Does that make sense? So it could be that the contract that you struck with your ex covertly, right? Not knowingly, unwittingly, unconsciously, that contract is no longer a contract that is going to serve your authenticity. And the reason that you're here watching a video like this is because there's a call out to you to say, hey, you can be more conscious. You can be more healed in yourself. And it's a different way of orienting to your inner experience that you start to get more curious, more deeply about, hey, what is actually going on here? Do I really need to keep this person on the hook for loving and validating me? Or can I do that for myself more and also start to, as I get back out into the dating world, maybe look at it differently from some other person? Maybe I could acknowledge to myself, hey, this is a difficult territory for me, and perhaps I've been running from it my whole life. I don't care if you're listening to this and you're 87 years old. There's a possibility for you to heal some of this part of yourself, right? But it generally comes from a kind of patience and loving presence and attention towards yourself. All right, that was a lot. I hope you're digesting. We're going to get into number 3, right? The third reason that you might be asking the question, is my ex over me? Is because in your heart of hearts, you have a sense that actually you're better off together, right? Or that the relationship isn't fully done. Now, that is a different instance of asking that question. Now, if that is true for you, that in your heart of hearts, you really think, hey, we are actually better off together. Not because I fear losing them, right? Not because I have to hit this wound if they're not giving me attention. Not because perhaps our physical chemistry was so arresting that it's hard to be without it. But from a more deep place within yourself, in your heart of hearts, that you sense that maybe we're better off together. That will continue to be true for you whether you take action on it today or not, right? Sort of meaning, one of the ways of discerning, is this really true, is it probably won't occur to you like a really compulsive need, like I've just got to talk to them or I've just got to get back with them. It's probably more likely to occur with a quieter, more knowing quality to it, right? So if you've got this thing that's arresting, almost like, oh my gosh, I've got to get the donuts, it probably isn't from a place of knowing or in your real heart of hearts. Probably something else is getting activated. Maybe your attachment system, maybe your romantic infatuation system, maybe your defense against feeling that wound I was talking earlier, I'm loved and I'm unwanted. right? Or maybe something else. But if it's got that kind of graspy, compulsive, impulsive, obsessional quality to it, I want you to stop and I want you to get super, super curious about what actually might be happening here. Now, if you're all over the place, right, you're grieving, you're feeling lost, you're emotionally dysregulated, what I'm talking about can be hard, right? And so that's one of the reasons why we slow it down, why we take baby steps, why we try to breathe into ourselves and regulate ourselves more, why we reach out to other people for support, right? I'm not pretending any of this is easy. Life isn't easy, right? Real adult development isn't easy. Relationships aren't easy. None of this territory is easy. And you're here because at least part of you is probably willing to roll your sleeves up and do some inner work. This is actually where this is available. Now, if in your heart of hearts you really sense we would do well to get back together, then you can make a communication about that, right? You can write a letter. You can set up a time for coffee. The essence of this is not really, is your ex over you? It's, does your ex, like you in sobriety, think that actually it's worth giving this another shot? And if that's true, I think it will be true through time, right? So there's not normally an immediate statute of limitations on this, right? Meaning time is often your friend. You've already had some history together. Let's metabolize what actually happened. Let's maybe metabolize what hasn't worked, right? Let's metabolize or inquire into how were you showing up in this connection? What parts of you were showing up? How was the connection constellated? So let's try to get as clear as we can about what actually has happened, because that will also inform, is there going to be a second act here, right? And I've seen that where second acts work, they are possible. They're not necessarily super common, but they're definitely possible, is where both people in sobriety have done the metabolizing of the first situation and have grown, right? They're like, yeah, I get it. I was showing up with a lot of anxiety in our connection, and here's some of the reasons why, and here's the things I needed that I didn't get, and I can practice how to ask for them differently. It's great if you also have some kind of shared reality. It doesn't have to be 100% about what actually happened, right? If you've both gone away, inquired into what happens, and we've got very different versions of reality, that might be difficult to weave some kind of shared reality about what are we going to do differently going forward. Now, we could get into this topic way more deeply. There's more for me to say on this, but this I'm distinguishing as that this is a different way of being interested in the question, is my ex over me? Is there really, not just because sexually or in my attachment, I kind of need that person over there, but is there a sense of compatibility that could underlie a second act for our relationship, right? And if that's true for you, I would encourage you to claim it, to speak as authentically as you can and lead with your heart, but also realize sometimes your heart and what is actually compatible between two people can be different things, right? So this is where we do need to have some kind of self-objectivity or to be practicing, noticing what actually might be true, and time can be on your side. If this is the case, I encourage you to look at it in a real way and give it the time, energy, and attention it deserves, because it might be that there's something better that's in your joint path. If, however, the reason you're thinking about your ex is really more to do with your sense of okayness, I'm sorry, that can be really hard, but that normally isn't about the recipe being, okay, we need to get back together. Normally the recipe there is to actually do some work about your deeper sense of okayness, right? Which has to do with worth and self-love and self-acceptance. And the best way that I know to approach those things is to get way more present with yourself. If you love something, you give it attention and presence. Generally, we are out to lunch, right? I can do this all the time, so not coming from judgment, but just we're somewhere else, right? We're thinking about the future, we're thinking about work, we're thinking about a past conversation, we're having an imagined conversation in our head. None of this is actually the harder work of, hey, can you be with yourself and slow down and notice with more acceptance and realness what is actually happening in your experience. So that's my prayer and hope for you, that in this time of loss and maybe confusion, you can slow down as much as possible. If you need to, you back burner a whole set of things in your life, including maybe obligations that keep you tied up in energy that right now might be needed for you, that you do get support, right? None of us can easily do this alone. I've gone through difficult times, breakups, etc., with not enough support, frankly, in hindsight. So it's one of the reasons I like helping people in this territory. But it's a time for your transformation, right? It's a real time of renewal, of looking more deeply at yourself and probably turning the page for a new you, whether that new you is actually going to reconstellate something with this person, or whether that new you is actually going to enter into any kind of friendship or intimate relationship or any kind of relationship from a new place. That's the real possibility of life, right? Of your own self-renewal is a beautiful and precious thing. Many people don't have that opportunity because they don't get the wake-up call from the hurt. If you're hurting because your ex and you, it didn't work out, I'm sorry it didn't work out, right? That's rough. Sometimes you really try hard and you want it to work out. Sometimes it doesn't. That's rough. And It can also be a moment for you to really move forward in your life from a different place. And that's what I want from you. So make sure you're on my list. Leave me a comment. I'd love to know how this is landing. And as always, I'm Jack. Thanks for being here.